Great. So thank you so much for joining us for the next panel. This is No One Way to Build Esports Programs on HBCU Campuses. I'm joined here by Dr. Kevin James, Dr. Laura Colson, Julian Waddell, and Sedeka Franklin. And we're going to do first, we're going to have a little bit of a round robin of everyone going around and talking a little bit about what esports programs or their orientation towards esports and their professional capacity. And then we're going to open it up to a moderated discussion and then broader discussions from the chat. One of the things I would encourage you to do is to make sure that you are commenting in the chat as we go through. So just making sure that you are, as we go, we will be able to make it an organic conversation. Thank you so much. And without further ado, we're going to start with Dr. Kevin James.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you all so much for inviting me today. I'm very honored to be here. My name is Kevin James. I am the 19th president of Morris Brown College located in Atlanta, Georgia. Morris Brown College is a historical Black college that was founded in 1881 here in Atlanta. What makes Morris Brown College very unique is that we're the only historically Black college or any college in the entire state of Georgia that actually was founded by Black people. The only institution. We were founded in 1881 by the African Methodist Episcopal Church, which was the largest church denomination at that time. A lot of you all may have heard of Morris Brown as we were the featured band in the movie Drumline, $100 million movie, $100 million. And just coincidentally, after that movie aired back in 2002, about 6 months after that, we lost our accreditation. And a lot of people thought that our institution had closed almost 20 years ago. Well, I'm very excited to say under this administration that we have brought Morris Brown College back to her full fruition, her full glory, and we just received our accreditation candidacy. We're right now in the process of applying for federal financial aid, so all of our students can have federal financial aid funding once again in student loans. And so we're so excited to be here, still standing in Atlanta, Georgia. We call it the hard reset. We've gone through and reset everything regarding our academics, our campus life, our facilities, our programming, so on and so forth. As we were going through our hard reset while we were working on our accreditation, we were looking at some very innovative academic programs so we could be very competitive once we got our accreditation back. And so Atlanta, Georgia is one of the top esports and gaming cities in the entire country. And so, you know what? We wanted to be very innovative and unique. And so we created Georgia's first esports performance degree program. We have 2 tracks. We have a certificate track, which is 8 courses, 24 hours that anybody can come to. But we've also opened it up for high school juniors and seniors. So by the time they graduate from high school, they will have a 24-hour certificate in esports performance. Additionally, we also have a bachelor's degree track in global business management and applied leadership with a concentration in esports performance. One of the only HBCUs in the country that actually has a degree format or degree option for a degree in esports. And so both of these programs have been approved both by the state, the Georgia Non-Public Post-Secondary Education Commission here in the state of Georgia, as well as our accreditor, the Transnational Association of Christian Colleges and Schools. And so Morris Brown is back in full effect right here in downtown Atlanta with both a degree option in esports performance as well as a certification in esports performance. Anyone who's interested in our programming, go to our website, morrisbrown.edu. And we look forward to welcoming each and everybody who's interested in attending Morris Brown College here in Atlanta. And again, our website is morrisbrown.edu. And I welcome any questions when the time comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. James. And now I'm going to pass the mic over to Dr. Laura Colson, who was instrumental in booting up her esports program.
Good afternoon, all. I am Laura Colson, Currently, I serve as Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Johnson C. Smith University. Today, I actually sit in the place of my future president, Suzanne Walsh, for Bennett College, where I will serve as the Vice President for Academic Affairs. Bennett College, of course, founded in 1873 as a co-ed institution that many people may not realize, eventually transitioned to an all-women's college in 1926. As I work to join Bennett College, we will be looking at esports in a different capacity than that what President James just spoke about. We will be looking at esports as an interdisciplinary offering. When you think about esports, people tend to just think about the gaming, the aspect, the management of it, but there is so much more that is involved. And as a liberal arts institution focused on women, we have one charge, one of our strategic directions that we're looking at, and that deals with being a new frontier for social justice, civil rights, and technology. And so part of our emphasis will be on focusing on that social justice as well as technology when it comes to esports. When we think about esports, sometimes women are not highlighted in the best manner. So we'll be looking at things such as that and how can we make an impact and make gaming more of an interest where women have the equal playing field and feel comfortable with gaming and building, etc. So we look at esports as a way that we can truly incorporate liberal arts from all different majors to create these gaming opportunities for not only students, but for the world.
Thank you so much for that. And now I'm gonna pivot over to Julian Waddell.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Julian Waddell. I'm from Oakwood University. I'm a professor of management information systems as well as entrepreneurship. I'm also the executive director of OU Launchpad, our entrepreneurship center. And one of the things that I want to touch on a little bit in regards to why we brought esports into Oakwood University comes prior to me becoming a professor. So prior to that, I was the Chief Information Security Officer of Oakwood University. And in that role, my team analyzed and reported on traffic use on our network. One of the things that we already knew to be true was that most of the prominent use of our network resources on our campus was online gaming. So when I transitioned to being a professor, I integrated gamification into our curriculum, and it really improved engagement. So when we launched our university's entrepreneurship center, it was a no-brainer to integrate esports and gamification as a gateway to the exploration of entrepreneurship. So that's been our major push. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did within our entrepreneurship center is allow our students to be able to have the full support of everything that would be needed within the business side of esports, such as you can probably see in our background, the space that I'm in is specifically for our students to come in and be able to have the support to be able to stream. So we made sure that a lot of the things that we implemented was something that would make the transition of seeing esports as a viable career pathway for micro entrepreneurs within our university.
Thank you. I'm smiling a little bit because I had a similar experience when I was an undergrad with a very interesting conversation with my IT lead of, could you please expand the bandwidth to my dorm so that I could play World of Warcraft? It was for research, so it was fine, right? Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, if it comes back around, I have a story. I also went to Oakwood as a student, and I have an actual interesting story about myself and a couple of my friends playing Command and Conquer, and one of the things that we had to do during that time frame.
I'm really excited for that preview to dive a little bit more deeply there. But I do want to give also Sedeka Franklin from the White House Initiative on HBCUs to also introduce herself.
Thanks, Liz, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And Liz, it's been an absolute delight to work with you over the past few months to bring us to today. Again, my name is Sedeca Franklin. I'm Associate Director with the White House Initiative on HBCUs. A little bit of background about the initiative. We were the first of its kind established by President Carter about 40 years ago in 1980. The initiative's primary role is to serve as a federal advocate or a partnership broker to create mutually beneficial opportunities to advance education, research, and outreach opportunities for faculty and staff. At the initiative, it's really my job to elevate the public awareness of all 102 HBCUs by engaging industry in a national dialogue about HBCU partnerships, programs, and initiatives. We aren't really a grant-making office. We really strive to be change makers. Though we collaborate with 32 federal agencies, both cabinet and independent, we also strive to connect with various industry partners. Liz, you were just talking about Warcraft. I have to admit, I am not a gamer at all. I think the last game that I mastered was Super Mario Brothers. But certainly when the initiative heard rumblings about esports and gaming, we really wanted to get involved. We started connecting with industry and academia partners to learn more. We sought out opportunities to develop an understanding of esports industry and really strive to align interests to expand access and opportunity for HBCU students and faculty. 2019, the initiative collaborated with those same industry and academia partners to offer an esports and data analytics track at our annual National HBCU Week conference. It was the first time that we really explored this lucrative ecosystem of esports and identified opportunities for institutions to consider. A number of HBCUs have positioned themselves since that 2019 offering to become really global leaders in developing esports and certainly the esports talent pipeline. And we're continuing to seek ways to keep the community informed on how the federal government and private industry establish agreements to provide technical assistance and other training to bring us along. So again, thank you for having me today. I'm glad to be here, and I am super excited to hear from the rest of the panelists.
Thank you so much to everyone for being here. I really wish we had hours and hours to pick through all of your great expertise in this area. To kick it off a little bit, I wanted to ask you all, what are some of the impacts that you are seeing with students? Julian, I'm thinking of the story that you were telling of you noticed that students were playing games and you were trying to meet that need. And then another thing that was mentioned by Dr. James is that we're seeing a growing number of students beyond the campuses who are also wanting to engage in esports and trying to capture that interest. But there's a nuance between capturing interest and what are the impacts that we're seeing on those students once we've got them into an esports program.
Well, I guess I'll jump in first. I have the belief that you go to where students are. Higher education as a whole is changing the entire landscape. And COVID just pushed us in the deep end of the pool with changing how we operate and who we're working with and how we work with them. And so one thing that we have found is students are gaming. Someone just mentioned Super Mario Brothers, right? I'm not going to mention Mike Tyson's Punch Out or Contra or any of those old school games that these students nowadays have no clue what I'm talking about. But nevertheless, they're gaming. And so when you talk about a higher education, when you talk about a career opportunity, when you talk about what do you want to do once you graduate high school, let's take something to them that they already are doing and love and turn it into a career. The difference between a job and a career is, would you do it for free, right? And some of these students, they would absolutely game and or lead gaming or work in that field for free. And so why not educate them and give them the tools to, yeah, it's gaming today, but what about business? What about entrepreneurship? What about desk hosting? What about being an entrepreneur leading a tournament or it's $1 billion industry. Why not do something that you're already doing for free? And so that is one of the reasons why Morris Brown wanted to jump in to the esports arena, not to mention that Atlanta is a top city for esports. So many different companies coming to town. There's already so many companies here in town, and they're looking for talent. We want to be that diverse pipeline that is going to educate these students to be that talent that they need. And so that is my synopsis on esports while we got involved. And, so many organizations now looking into funding opportunities to create these diverse pipelines. What better way than to just offer the degree program and or certification to do it? And so that is just my 2 cents on that.
And as Kevin has, I'm sorry, Julie.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, as Kevin has stated, we have to meet students where they are. And esports is truly an experiential learning opportunity for our students. When you think about it, as I was saying earlier, we are a liberal arts university. And what we want to do is challenge our students to look at being problem solvers, but not just problem solvers from being the ones that are gaming and trying to win the tournaments, but also problem solvers on how do we create these opportunities through esports and incorporate theater? How do we incorporate the music and the score that goes through it? The adventure through the English majors and things of that nature. As Kevin spoke to, the management of gaming and tournaments and programs, you have to have those intricate pieces for things like this to pan out. So it's truly an interdisciplinary studies, experiential learning opportunity for students. This gives those students who may have not thought about going to college an opportunity to realize I'm good at gaming. A teacher may have told me I'm not good at mathematics, but I am good at mathematics if I'm gaming because it's strategy to it. And so this is how we tempt students to realize you have something in you. Sometimes someone will see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And through gaming, that allows us to tap into a student's passion and purpose, and they can find their niche so that they can become entrepreneurs and even tournament winners and make it lucrative for themselves.
Both of you all has hit the nail on the head. So when I think about just the impact in general from our perspective, so esports has been housed, like I mentioned before, within our entrepreneurship center. And when you mentioned the experiential learning aspect of it, that's one of the things that we've been integral into pushing at our entrepreneurship center. So I see it along the line of helping them when it comes to problem solving and being analytical, not only when it comes to schoolwork, but when it comes to startup development. It's like I look at it just like you mentioned with all the aspects that you see within a game. I've seen it, especially during this pandemic, where they're the ones that are setting up the tournament. They're the ones that are basically training people. They're basically creating industries within the university, scaling them and basically turning them into viable businesses. We started our entrepreneurship center this year. We recently have had a launch, and we've done the full ribbon cutting and everything. And one of the things that we did before we even was pushing entrepreneurship and esports, that connection, we were thinking about focusing on the micro entrepreneur. The micro entrepreneur is the entrepreneur that has less than 5 employees. So our biggest thing was, okay, how can we focus on that, and how can we focus on the ideation phase? So when students became involved, they began creating these businesses, not even realizing that they were businesses, and then tailoring it to other interested parties through the clubs that they were creating. And so the impact that I've seen is that it's given them a mentality that I can do this as a career, or I can do this as something that helps me grow when it comes to my academics. Because one of the things that you've seen that has impacted all of our schools is our students' mental health. And I've seen esports act in a way that they've not only used it as an outlet, but it allowed them to overcome a lot of the obstacles that they've encountered within this year with all the things that have been happening with this pandemic and being able to master those things.
Good.
Oh, Julian, you you out there. I hear you. I hear you.
He
The
went Dr.
students
Phil on us.
really, I felt that. That was powerful. The students that we hear from in our focus groups, especially our HBCU scholars, they tell us all the time, you got to think outside the box. And not for nothing, esports is thinking outside the box. How can you educate folks while gaming and doing these things? So simply put, I think that it's allowing students to really see themselves in a career field that they find to be fun. Something that they're doing that's just for fun can actually translate into a career during college and post matriculation. So those are the impacts that I see. You know, it's not just a job, it's my career. It's what I want to do for life, and I enjoy doing it.
May I add one more thing, if you all don't mind?
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing I want to speak on. So we recently created a partnership with Unity, which is a game developer. So there's Unity and there's Unreal Engine, and these are the different game engines. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially in connecting it with esports, is when the conversation first started was, how do you integrate that with STEM? And I'm thinking along the line of STEAM because I'm including art in that. And being able to be an authorized training partner for Unity allowed them to have an additional pathway that they can complement as a co-curricular method that goes along with whatever major they decide to go down. And so I've seen students come in and they could be a biology major, a biochem, or it doesn't matter what the major is, and they see the route of getting a certification in game development. And it's not necessarily game development, it's what they can do with it. They can model stuff. So I mentioned biochemistry. They've been able to go along the line of saying, hey, can I use this game engine to model how a chemical reaction may be, and actually see it visually and basically deal with virtual reality? That came from even going the route of participating in esports, to see that as a potential avenue to want to learn, get a certification, and going further. So I just wanted to mention that.
That was great. I have one more question prepared for the panel, and then I'd just like to encourage people to ask questions in the chat so that we can direct them. We are going to stop shortly, so we may only be able to answer one or two more questions unless we start speed firing them, but I don't want to truncate anybody's responses. One of the things that I know a lot of educators are concerned about is, how do they get esports onto campus? And especially the three of you from universities, there's a lot of different ways that you've oriented towards esports on your campus. I would like to just probe a little bit more deeply into, why did you shape the esports program in the way that you did? What choices and what informed those decisions? And also, if there's any advice for someone who's trying to boot up an esports program, what might you offer those folks?
Well, I served as dean at my current institution, and as I was serving as dean, we had sport management up under my leadership. And with sport management, we saw more and more students, of course, gaming, and they were gaming through our student leadership and engagement lens. But then our faculty said, you know what, this is something that we need to tap into and work to create a minor. And so at Johnson C. Smith University, we actually created a trifecta where we have the minor, we have the club, and we actually have an esports lab. That has drawn so much attention. It has brought students out of their cocoon. And so when it comes to education, I don't even consider a box anymore. You just have to think holistically, think unconventionally, but also look at what is trending in society and not just necessarily education, to see how you can open up avenues at an institution. But you also have to have those leaders who are okay with zigging when others are zagging, who are okay with we don't have to conform to what everyone else is doing, but we want to look at students and their interests and how we can tap into that and create an environment where they can be who they are and grow and develop into those areas of interest that may not be the quote unquote norm. And so I think that's one way that we have spearheaded it currently at Johnson C. Smith University. And through Suzanne Walsh's leadership at Bennett, they are definitely moving to the beat of their own drum with herstory, not history, but we're telling a story of women and how women are taking the lead. And with this esports thing on that campus, as I stated already, we're going to look at esports at how can we change how women are viewed as well as quote unquote used literally and figuratively when it comes to gaming.
Here in Atlanta, again, I mentioned that the industry is huge here. And so for us, there were no colleges here that had the degree program. Now, there are a few schools that have gaming, but no one had a particular focus on esports, specifically esports performance. And so that is what drove us to start the degree program here in Georgia. And quite frankly, it was not easy. It wasn't easy when we went to the state because there were no other schools with the program. And so they were like, how do we evaluate this? How do we vet this? And so we had to bring in experts outside of the state to evaluate our program as we wrote our curriculum, as we, vetted faculty, everything that we're doing here in Atlanta. And just coincidentally, we were already working on our accreditation anyway. So it was like a one size fit all. We could do it all at one time simultaneously. So it worked out very, very good for us here at Morris Brown. Again, I just want to mention to anybody who's watching this, go to our website and take a look at our program, morrisbrown.edu. And for us, it was based off of, need. We're going to need leaders. We're going to need individuals to work at these different organizations. We're going to need diversity. We're going to need women. We're going to need just every piece of the rainbow when it comes to finding folks and developing that pipeline to work in this industry. One last thing, I'm sorry, not to mention Morris Brown, we're right now at this very moment building our esports lab, which is going to consist of all the gaming, the consoles, the computers, everything here on our campus. We're going to have a 20 to 25 seat arena here where students are going to get the hands-on learning that they need to be able to go out there and compete.
On my end, I have to commend both of you all on what you all have done in regards to esports in your universities. I just think that is just fantastic. On our end, one of the things that I have encountered, and I've seen and we've seen as a university is basically trying to, I would say, position our esports program with one of our majors. And so that was one of our biggest barriers initially when we first started. And it wasn't until we decided to associate it with our entrepreneurship center and as co-curricular activities that we started to see our particular pathway. And so how we focused on directing toward the development of an esports program was starting with having our Unity authorized training partnership. And we felt that by going that route, creating certifications, going with that, we would be able to then say, if students are interested in learning this platform, then they can go from that and utilize that from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And the reason why that's so important is because they're not just getting certifications, which will allow them to get jobs. They're becoming Unity certified instructors. So that opens a pathway for them to be able to have some type of entrepreneurial venture that they can do while they're developing into the person that they're trying to be with their career. It doesn't matter which degree they're in, they're able to say, I can have the certification, which can allow me to bring in streams of income that would help me grow. And then when you accompany that with being a part of esports or participating in different competitions and things of that nature, it allows you to see the full spectrum of all the aspects of not only game development, game design, but participating in tournament and sports management. So I think that it allows for multiple avenues to be explored.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to turn it to some of the questions that we're getting from the chat. One of the things, if we don't get to your question, please feel free to engage with us beyond this particular panel. All of our speakers are linked on our tweets that are coming out, for example, and you are also welcome to email me at elizabeth.newberry@wilsoncenter.org, and we can see if we can get an answer to your question. But one of the first questions that we had come in was specifically about esports qualifications and developing esports programs. And the question is, how can we audit esports qualification gatekeeping to ensure, I'm thinking to address the lack of gender, race, age, and class discrimination that we're seeing across esports platforms. So I think it's a broader question of how both at HBCUs, but also maybe beyond HBCUs, how can we be thinking about when we're structuring these programs to support diversity and inclusion in those spaces?
Well, my mind goes to online learning immediately. While launching online degree programs, many courses are analyzed using Quality Matters. And so there may be some standards that need to be developed or continue to be developed to ensure that as programs are being developed, we are looking at quality matters and equity and diversity and inclusion. This is something that's just is always ongoing. I mean, we see what's going on in society now, which is truly causing people to rethink everything that they're doing in life to ensure social justice and equity for everyone. So I just think there needs to be even more quality matters assurance when it comes to these types of things.
I would just piggyback on that and say, when you talk about diversity, you have to be very intentional.
I think, at least on my screen, he's frozen. So if Sedeka or Julian, if you had something momentarily, and I'll message him directly to let him know that he's a little frozen on our end.
I actually got what I was thinking specifically was that to be able to address a lot of the obstacles that, you know what, before I go any further, because I don't want to just fill around, can you tell me the question again, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to repeat the question. So the question was, how can we audit esports qualification gatekeeping to ensure to promote diversity and inclusion?
Okay. So, like you were saying, I would also piggyback off what Laura was saying in regards to the same methodology that you would implement in regards to your academics, as well as going into the other avenues of sports and that you already have within your university. You would basically try to implement a similar type of inclusion method that basically enables people to be able to participate equally.
Great. I think Kevin is just about to join us again. So sorry you cut out, Kevin. Are you with us again?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't even know where I was, but technology, gotta love it, right? That's why we're educating our future leaders to handle all of this. I believe my final comment was just, we have to be very intentional when it comes to diversity and inclusion, and when you look at esports, we just have to be just as intentional as with everything else.
Yeah.
And Liz, I really echo the sentiment that Julian mentioned. You know, you shouldn't single out esports any differently than you do any other program that you offer within your institution. Though the industry is growing, there are folks that are known as kind of the experts, and I would lean to them to identify what's most appropriate in terms of programming and curriculum. And I kind of, make a note to say, me from the White House Initiative, we are not weighing in on curriculum. We are not weighing in on program development. But certainly I would think that it would be appropriate to include it in the same fashion that you do any other program.
I just have one more thing to add. I think of gaming as the great equalizer. It's different in the sense of like when you're playing a sport, like each of the schools may have a basketball team, for instance. With esports, it doesn't have to be separated based on gender or anything like that. Anyone can play. Everyone is on the same playing field. It's the great equalizer. So I feel that it is prime for inclusion, prime for diversity and being able to work together.
Yeah, and I think on that note, one thing to bear in mind is that although games are inclusive spaces and anyone could play a game, we have to also be sensitive to the communities of play that might create barriers to participation, which I think is exactly what you all are pointing to here. So this will be the last question that we can entertain, and then unfortunately we have to get off to the NBA 2K play session. But there was a really good question about the programs and developing sort of that community connection. Is there any way, I know that this is something that we're thinking about of like transferable skills with students and also these programs having a broader impact. So I would just like to give you guys the opportunity to talk about some of those ways that beyond the esports programs themselves, you're seeing students develop skills or engage in the broader community of play from the catalyst of the esports programs.
Well, I'll say for us, as we were developing our program, we did some very deep digging to see what other transferable skills or what other skills you needed to have, and this kind of how we framed our degree program. So at Morris Brown College, we really dig deep into social media management. We dig really deep into television and film, right? These are other skills outside of just the gaming component. Of course, our degree is under the umbrella of our business department. So we combined it with our global business and applied leadership degree program to get those business skills that you're going to need as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a someone who just wants to work in the industry. So we wanted to make sure that those skills are there. And not to mention, again, desk hosting, esports coaching, the gaming component, the business component, the entrepreneurial component. So all of those components, I believe, is just bridges from esports to these other fields of endeavor as well. And individuals who come to Morris Brown to get the certificate, even if they decide not to go into the business department to finish a degree, those courses could transfer into any other field of endeavor now that we got the accreditation candidacy. So I believe that when we developed our program, we looked at all the different fields or skill sets that you're going to need to be able to go out and compete and get jobs. At the end of the day, our degree is going to prepare students to go out and compete and to be able to get a very good paying job.
Similarly, as Kevin James has spoken to, at Johnson C. Smith University, we strategically aligned it under sport management. We've been working with students for a number of years on managing sports, and what better way for us to provide them experiential learning opportunity through esports. And so as Kevin has spoken to, those business management skills, those leadership skills, many of the soft skills, and students are able to tap into seeing their areas of strengths, and we use those for them to grow. And so again, as I've spoken, as we move forward at Bennett College, we'll be looking at it in an interdisciplinary aspect, where students will be able to see through the arts, through journalism, through communication, through English, what esports can do for them and for others.
And going and exploring interdisciplinary, having an interdisciplinary focus, that's one of the things that Oakwood is also doing in regards to how we strategically positioned esports, as well as training that went along with entrepreneurship. And the reason why it's important to mention that transition, one of the things that we focused on when we first started was researching the area in Huntsville, Alabama. A lot of the things which you'll notice in Huntsville is a military government city. You'll see one of the largest research parks there. And one of the things that you'll see is that a lot of these government contractors, if you look at their jobs that they're posting, one of the things that I saw consistently, and you can look it up for yourself, you'll see that one of the requirements for some of the jobs has a lot to do with game engines, such as Unity and Unreal Engine. And so in applying that type of knowledge into what a student can get out of esports and getting these certifications in Unity or Unreal Engine, it allows them to be able to explore different avenues, because these jobs weren't just technical jobs or engineering or manufacturing. These jobs also included the medical field or research or art or film. And all of those things within the game engines, when you research these different game engines, you'll see that those game engines were applicable to all of these particular industries. So we wanted to be able to make sure that when the students came in, they saw that they were interested in esports and gaming, and then they saw a pathway that not only involved the competitive nature of participating in this, but being able to develop a skill that allowed them to get a job that there were current job postings for.
And I'll just echo that and say access, diversity, and opportunity have really been the hallmark for HBCU success. And, you know, we've been curating these entrepreneurs and medical professionals, teachers, actors, and now even the Vice President of the United States. So I really encourage industry partners to work with our institutions. There are 102. There aren't just the 5 that everybody, you know, kind of frequents to assist with getting esports on campus. You know, the industry is the cohort that is fluent in the language of esports. And so team with HBCUs to establish and outline collaborative agreements, bringing software partnerships, service partnerships, facilities, infrastructure, and assist with the technical assistance and training that's needed to keep our faculty informed and up to date, and making sure that we are teaching the students the skills that they need in order to translate that into the jobs of the future.
Well, great. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for. I will, however, shamelessly plug Sedeca's fall conference for the HBCUs that happens every year. And if you would like to continue the conversation beyond today, that would be a golden opportunity to engage with HBCUs and esports. Next up, we're going to be seeing some NBA 2K league play that happened during the pandemic. One of the great things about esports is that it can be done virtually quite easily. So we'll be seeing how that was done with Community's presentation next. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.